All right, I'm almost set up here, dears.
One. There was one yoga pose that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And like, I would like have a Pinterest board with like the different shots of it.
Oh.
It was the
The back of the bridge. Oh, the chaturanga.
No, the triangle pose. Up without wall.
Oh, so like just like the hand.
Yeah,
and
you
then,
use your core to
yeah,
lift up.
to have it straight. Yeah.
I would work towards it, but I have like really bad like.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's like always like giving me shit, but when you put your mind to it,
We talked about yoga.
Yes.
we're talking about manifesting.
We're talking about manifestation.
Okay, gotcha,
Do you believe in
gotcha.
it?
Sorry, say again.
Do you believe in it?
You know, I'm not sure what my thoughts are on manifestation. I like thinking through things. I'm familiar with the concept. I haven't put it through rigorous sort of thought process to see how I understand it. So I understand it, but I'm not sure what my thoughts are on it yet, honestly.
You haven't tested out.
Not yet.
An opinion on that.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. That's a good way to say it.
No,
I don't discount it.
of course.
Yeah, I'm more like, I wonder like, yeah, I'd like to see into it more.
Yeah, no.
Let me start off by learning your names. My name is Binyam. You are?
Opinion. Ayari.
How do you spell that, Yari?
Ayari.
A-Y-A-R. I would not have guessed that. So, say it again.
Ayari.
Almost sounds like there's a Y in the beginning too, doesn't it?
Yes, it's yeah. Ayari.
A-Y-A-R-I. Oh, I see. I would have said Y-A-R-I, Yari. But there's almost an A before the
Oh yes,
Y.
it's Ayari.
Ayari, there we
Yeah.
go. That's what I like understanding.
Yeah, there you go.
Ayari.
Ayari.
Have you ever met another Ayari before?
No, I have not.
So you're one of a kind.
I am.
What does it feel like?
I don't really think much about that. It doesn't cross my mind. I love my name, but it doesn't cross my mind.
It's nice to reach it out.
Yeah, it is nice to meet
And you are?
My name is Muskan.
Another unique name. How do
Okay,
you spell that?
Muskan. So M-U-S-K-A-N.
M-U-S-K. Muskan.
Yeah.
I've never met another.
Really?
Have you met another Muskan before?
I have.
You have?
have?
Oh,
have.
no way!
Yes, I have.
In like university.
In university.
Oh.
Where were they from?
From I don't really know.
Okay.
Yeah, I just met them.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I don't really.
Yeah,
ask.
I've never even heard of the name. You know, sometimes you're familiar with like names that are unfamiliar, but you're like, this one is unique.
Yeah.
So, Muskan.
Yeah.
Muskan and Ayari. Do you remember mine?
Very-
Close. George.
What? No.
Thank
Don't
you.
even. We don't
Okay, let me give you the secret that I tell kids. A bin full of yams will get you to Binyam.
Biniam.
got it. Binyam. My short-term memory is B-I-N-Y-A-M.
Okay.
A bin and a yam together.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
that's lovely.
Pretty nice.
Thanks for being willing to be part of this, by the way.
Of course.
So, the way I've got this set up, I've got a list of questions from 1 to 15. You guys get to choose a number and we'll explore that question. Does that make sense? Excellent. Okay, so Muskan, choose me a number between 1 and 15.
7.
7. Okay, so the question number 7. Oh, this is a good exploration. On the theme of integrity, do you guys feel it's better to be strict in your application of it or flexible in your exploration of it?
By integrity, in what sense? Like.
Great starting point. Let's maybe back up and define what integrity means for you guys. What does integrity mean for y'all?
Pretty much just doing the right thing at the right time.
At the right time. I've never heard that a caveat as well too. Let me think. Doing the right thing at the right time. So there's a wrong time to do the right thing sometimes.
Yeah, I would believe
Give
so.
me an example, if you can think of one.
I'll have to think about it.
Yeah, that's a really curious one. Yeah,
I have my own personal definition of it, but
this is
I'm
gonna get really juicy. I can't wait to hear it.
but
Yeah.
I am curious. I've never really
Thought about it.
looked at it.
Yeah,
Actually,
and hence why I
actual thing.
love having these conversations. It's like one of those things. It's almost for some people they recognize it by seeing it,
Yeah.
but they have a hard time defining it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say like in terms of like if we were looking at something specific like friendships.
Yes.
And something even like telling on someone.
Yeah.
It would be wrong to maybe tell on someone when
the moment has already passed and the situation's not valid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't make as much of an impact as it would have in that certain situation.
So
So
the right
that's what I
time.
mean. At the wrong time, that's where the wrong time is.
I
And the
see.
right time would be just doing it when it's impactful.
That kind of makes sense, Muskan. So, like another example would be choosing a really necessary conversation at the wrong time. Say, like at a family dinner when no one else needs
Yeah.
to be a part of that conversation.
Oh yeah,
That's a
100%.
very awkward moment.
That's awkward. That's when you're like, let's.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I gotta go.
Going.
But then part of that too, Muskan, would be also social awareness too, wouldn't it? Or like emotional intelligence of saying who needs to be around for this conversation or not, right?
Definitely, I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and like the sensitivity of matters sometimes too.
Yeah.
Like you have to think about like
Good point.
people
Yeah.
or like the situation, like
Sure.
yeah, everything. Like it's very sensitive to sometimes people as well.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Helpful.
Interesting.
Indeed. Let me hear about your unique approach to integrity.
Well, integrity, right? Like
Yeah.
I always like hear the word integrity from the perspective of other people's integrity and like other, like like physical assets and like the integrity of that.
Ah,
But I've never really thought of integrity of myself. Like I would think of like if it's my own. If I think of integrity
sure.
and how I define it for me,
Yeah.
would be a self-worth or a I guess like the moral principle, principles or my values, pretty much. My
Excellent.
self-values,
Yeah.
that exist, and I don't know. It's such a
Okay, let me just explore a
Thought-
couple of things there.
thought-provoking
There's
situation.
a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It is. Okay, you touched on something that was really insightful, and that is most people today think of integrity in business terms.
Yes.
When they think about the integrity of a corporation, for example, or a company's entity, their public image, for example, they want to give a certain presentation. And the intriguing part about that too is when they think about it, they're more like, it's not if we have it, it's just do we look it? Right? Do we have this presentation of integrity that is going to help us make our sales and buy people's support and trust?
No, yeah, I agree. It's like it's very, and that's why it's hard because it's all and I could say this for anything, any question that you would say, it's all about perspective. And
yes.
so it's like in terms of like in terms of company, right?
Sure.
It's the way you market things and the level of integrity for that changes based on what other people view, and you could apply that with like social situations too. Like really, it's all about marketing yourself and the value that you hold for yourself, and it's
Okay, so there's something about that too then that begs more exploration, and that is, are we talking, when we talk about integrity at the heart level, about perceptions and image, or are we talking about the core essence of what integrity could look like? Because do you think there's a difference there?
Oh yeah, 100%. I
Okay.
think and that's why it's like integrity to me would be the core like values and your, I guess self-worth is part of your values and how you value yourself as self-worth. But yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely like there's that core level, and then there's also that the outer crust where it's like perception and all of that.
Sure.
But it's complex. It's a really complex ecosystem because then it's like, well, then other people's values, other people's perception, or your own perception of yourself affects your values, and it just
Sure.
really goes and trickles down into your core self. It's like.
I hear
I
that.
think a lot, but it's
This
there's
is
a
why
lot
we're having the
happening.
conversation. It's really helpful, and this is why I appreciate these conversations, especially for those I want to present it to. Is to say, can we have more of these conversations and wrestle with more of the implications of why this is an important conversation in the first place? So along those lines, then, if we're talking about more of the core level stuff, why would you say, both of you, that there is more attention paid to integrity at corporate levels? In corporate entities than on the personal level? You just touched on that briefly there, but why do you think that's so?
Well, I definitely think that companies thrive on their image,
Right.
and how they're portrayed on,
Yeah.
the audience and their people that they're trying to attract.
Right.
And a base thing that I've seen with almost every company is like marketing themselves in the right way. And sometimes it even you wonder if this is, with the integrity even lies beneath that surface level of, like, if you're even, you know what I mean? Where
I
it's-
remember talking to, there's this world organization that's well known, I'm not even going to mention it, but this is like, it impacts nations all around the world. It has a really good image, but I met someone who works there, had worked there, I should say. My question was along those lines, Muskan, and that was, tell me, from behind the scenes, you've been in behind closed doors and so on, is that level of integrity that they have, like at the front face level, the same behind? And to her experience, she said, no, it's a lot more of the political infighting and so on. So that's, I think, what you're referencing there, right?
Definitely.
That's such a good point.
And like, even coming out of school, you're part of these nonprofits, and a lot of things that you're part of, like social groups and organizations. And sometimes it's very hard to calculate whether they're doing the right thing for people, for the actual means that they
Sure.
want to support people,
Yeah.
or whether it's like a facade.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this in a hurtful way,
No,
but I
it's
mean
just
it like
observing, right?
it's something that you question almost, because like the integrity kind of lies beneath that surface level, and just like if they're portraying it and they're actually acting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, because that got me to think about, like, okay, there's a lot of organizations, like especially for-profit ones, are doing things for money, and a lot of people do a lot of things for money, and a lot of companies do, and this is just a general understanding based on my experience, is a lot of companies do market, their values
Sure.
outward to other people in the society, but really it's like, do they really implement it? Do they really to the core believe in it? And it's most of the time it's like it's so hard, because especially for large companies, it's like, how do you like, no, they don't because there's so much politics within, like, company systems and all of that. But that got me to think about, like, well, then is at the core level, like, let's say a company has, like, the whole outer core values and all of that, but then at the core level they have, like, more like their own set of beliefs, right? That really structures the direction of the company or whatever. Is that, like, then I question the morality of things, right? Like, the moral value of that. Then it becomes very difficult, because it's like, well, then to some people that might align, but in a societal standard, it's like, that might be not allowed.
And you know what's crazy?
You think about Shein and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what's crazy is that, like, social media and technology, like social media specifically, plays such a big part of that.
It really does.
Because
it's crazy.
I know companies, and I wouldn't mention any names because we're not doing that, but I know companies that portray themselves as, we're in this corporate sphere, but we're very fun and we are very outgoing, and our employees have, like, these many days off, and we're doing parties here and there and events and all that sort of stuff, trying to show
We
this.
care about everyone.
We care
all
about,
that.
and we have these mental health days, and like a lot of things that they mention, it makes
Sounds
me,
good.
it makes me like, wow, this is amazing. I want to,
Yeah.
it attracts people for sure. And once you get to actually know people that work in that company, and you ask them, like, how are you truly feeling? They're like, oh, I just cried this morning. Like, I'm having a tough day.
Like, where is the support that they said they would give? And then that affects your personal integrity, because you joined, because you looked at these values and you're like, okay, this aligns. And then now you feel betrayed, and then that just really, like, shuts it down. And it's like, it's so,
It's a cycle.
I love this question, but it's takes a
So
lot.
there's another element of this too, and that is, would you say, like, would you say is an important starting point? The company level presentation of integrity, or the personal level?
Personal.
Personal.
Oh, definitely personal.
Definitely personal. And then would you say in some way, the way that you described corporate struggles to have the core level of integrity also mirrors in general people's personal approach and pursuits to experiencing integrity?
Can you unpack that question?
Yeah,
Did you get it?
I mean, I can say what I understand from that.
yeah.
So I definitely think that, like, kind of just like the example I just gave of like corporations, showing that they're this and that. It's something that I feel like we sort of apply in our in our daily too.
Sure.
You
How
know,
so?
it's that facade of being like, I'm so happy in life.
Yeah.
This is
Everything's so great.
I'm so happy. This is
Yeah.
so positive. You
Yeah,
know,
like having a picnic.
going
it's
for
every
yoga
day,
and
yeah.
like
yeah.
I'm like saying, I was telling my friend this, that like on social media
Yeah.
we show this image of like I'm at this beach today, I'm going to this spa thing today, and I'm doing this and that, and you only get to see a little glimpse of people's lives, and you think this is how they're living, when truly they're struggling, and people are not sharing about the struggles that they're actually going through. So I mean, there's a part about integrity there, because are we being truthful? Are we being, honest to our own emotions and our own feelings when, going through life, putting on this face that we're not even sure if it's ours? I don't know if I just said too much.
No, that got me to think a lot. Like, I just had a flood of thoughts and I'm listening. But that got me to think about, then it's like, I mean, like, obviously, like, imagine a world, right, where everyone's just so truthful in terms of what they show about
Right.
their actual life. Then the lack of privacy and the lack
Yeah.
of value that you really hold for those little moments. And it's like, it's all, again, perception.
Yeah.
But it's all about, like, yes, you might look at all these things as like, oh, what a wonderful life. My life's not like that. And, like, I want that. But it's, the part of life is that it's there's good and the bad, and sometimes the bad you can't control, and there's sometimes the good you can't control, and it's like, it's so complex. I understand why people want to show the good parts, right? It's like, there's gotta be that level of balance. Like, I agree, if it's just always like so toxic positivity type of thing, and it's like, yeah, like, I get it, but it's also, to what extent is it, like, like, can people just live their life, just to live their life, and instead of
You've got me
having
thinking on this one too.
criteria. Yeah, like, it's complex. It really is. It's because then at that point, I'm somewhat trying to direct how people should live their life, but it's really not. It's, again, based on that person's moral principles, based on their values, whatever that is, right? Whether that's telling lies or telling the truth, it's hard. I took an ethics course in university, and like,
That helped everything, right?
it really messed up with my head. I came out of there, I was like, I don't even know what's right or wrong anymore. Like,
Okay, let me suggest a couple of things on this last couple of points here, and I'll invite your input. So on the reference point of how on the personal level we may present a lot more of the good, and then not give a balanced picture of how we also are human in our struggles as well too. Part of my thought is, on the one hand, it's really helpful socially to know who you can safely confide your struggles with, and even like the ones that you've processed already. How are you going to share that or not, right? And then secondly, on top of that, there's also the intentional piece, right? What's the intention when we present only the one side? Is it something we're aiming for to say we're presenting something that helps us feel validated, there we go, validated, not validified, validated on the reference point of, hey, we're looking for this kind of acceptance communally, so people will think we're doing really well when that's not our really main personal concern, versus how can we actually share things that are meaningful without that ego piece that says, hey, I want to look like amazing and like everyone's going to envy me and I got it all, right? So there's those two nuances, right?
yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Which is a big part of integrity, because again, you're saying perspective. Yes, intention also is a big part of that, and saying, why do we do what we do? What are we really aiming for? Are we trying to put joy out there? I just made, before I got here, I was walking through the Beltline where I live, and came across this mural, and it was a beautiful, I'm trying to remember what it said, but it said something more along the lines of, why wouldn't we just share the good in the world with each other just for the sake of doing that, instead of like aiming for follows or things like that, right? So the intention is a huge part of it again, right?
It is, yeah. It's,
totally.
I agree. Like, because, like, like, you think about it. I watch these, like, little Instagram shorts of, like, people going, shopping on Sundays to the farmer's market. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. It's like, it does.
It's so quaint and sweet, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, it can impact someone's life, like, positively, but then it also...
But then the job of marketers and advertisers is to incite like need and want, and you don't have this, and so here, and we do that in some sense when we're doing those things. So I do agree with you too. It's Ayani, right? No.
Ayari.
Ayari. There we are. Ayari. There we are. Muskan, I've still got it. Mine is something full of something.
Vinyam.
You got
Vinyam,
it.
yes, Vinyam.
Vinyam.
Well done. Well done. All right. So back to the question again. In your application of integrity, do you feel it is helpful for you personally to be strict in your application or flexible in the way you understand integrity?
Definitely after like unpacking so much that we just did.
Yes.
I feel like definitely flexible.
You like the flexible approach.
Yeah,
Cool.
because definitely there's a lot to look at when it comes to certain situations. You know, whether it be intention, like we just mentioned,
Sure.
or whether it be, you know, perspective.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there.
Yeah,
So being
yeah.
flexible in that sense would
Yeah.
be supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you
That's a
think?
good point. I agree. Yeah,
agree?
I completely agree. Like you said it right. Like, bang on. It's like being flexible with your integrity and in general helps you make the most out of life instead of being so
Yeah.
rigid and like
Yeah.
waiting for things to like really shape around you, but really just fluid.
So let me see if I understand you correctly. Are you saying in general it's good to be flexible, or absolutely you're going to be flexible on all points? Another way of asking it is, are there some hard lines where you're like, actually, this is a no-go zone, this is a non-negotiable, this has always got to be included? And what would those be? What would be like the firm points of your application of integrity where you're like, this has got to be there, otherwise it's not integrity?
Definitely there's like crime involved.
Yeah,
I do not want to be.
But then would you say some context and some ways of the way people see the world do involve crime? Say like let's say there are some things that are not crime, but they're unethical. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
You hear what I'm saying there,
I
right?
totally get
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's like it's definitely very like situation based,
There we go.
right?
Okay.
Because you're
Yeah.
thinking about like each situation, like
Sure.
and even the level
Yeah.
of it. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes it can just be like a small situation where you're like, okay, the impact wasn't that big, so depending on the impact too. So
Sure,
looking
sure.
at that,
Yeah, for
definitely.
sure.
That's a good point. Yeah, I agree.
So my intent is not to like put you guys more in the gray. You're like, I have no idea what this is anymore.
No.
It's more along the lines of this is a worthwhile topic to wrestle with on an ongoing moment by moment basis.
There's a lot to unpack.
Absolutely, for
It's so
sure,
much, yeah.
for sure.
Like, yeah, I was like thinking about, the whole unethical, ethical situation. And it's like, I've recently been watching this I guess a Net Geo documentary.
Yeah.
It's called Trafficked with Marianne Van Zel. And she, there's like this, in the last season, this isn't a spoiler because it's a documentary, but it's, but there's like this whole section about human trafficking and organs, and it like, in the end, it really makes you question, like, whoa, like it's like a really big like what type of situation, because it goes from the start of the people who traffic people and harvest organs and all of that, and it goes to the whole it explains about the whole system, the government system, and how long it takes for you to actually get approved for the organ. And she asked in the documentary, there's this guy in his deathbed pretty much, and she asked him, it was like, have you ever considered, knowing that trafficked organs or illegal organs, knowing that the black market organs come from this type of situation, would you still consider it? And he was like, yes, of course, because if you're there and you have 6 minutes left to live, or whatever, like 1 month left to live, and you're really close, you will do it, like you will consider it. And it's like, and then so she really thinks about, she makes us question like the audience about like really the whole process of things, and like looking at the system and all of that, and the reality of things really kick in. You're like, that is very complex and makes you question a lot of things in life. And it's like that, like, the unethical ethical thing, and it's like it's so situation based. It really is, because it's easy for me to say I'm healthy, and it's easy for me to say, oh, that's so wrong. But then when someone's like, literally there, like they have no option, and it's like, I'm not condoning anything, but it is, it's
Ayari, some of my thoughts. So to answer my question, I would say I would agree with you guys. I think in general I'm more flexible in my application of integrity, because I'm at an age where I flipped so many of my convictions and ideologies from when I was younger, and a lot more like determined and black and white. And so one of the things I really value for me is in my humanity is that I'm changing in time over time, you know, and so I value that, and I want to keep that open. So that's the flexible piece. But then there's some things that I'm like, this is definitely locked in. So I know from my experience, I lived for years, decades without honesty, dishonestly. And I heard a lot of people along the way. And so now in my application of integrity, transparency, and honesty, definitely got to be there, you know. I was just having an interview previously to you guys here, and the young lady's suggestion was kindness is a really core, integral part of integrity, right? And so these are some of the markers or goalposts that I watch for when I think of integrity. What are those that are for you guys, that like really core components that you're like, it's not integrity unless it has this X, Y, or Z?
It's hard. I don't know. Maybe this might be contradicting the whole idea of having a fixed value, but for me, like, obviously I agree, like kindness and honesty is like, oh my goodness, if people
You almost long for that, it sounds like. You're like,
it is
"Please give me some
because
honesty."
you know, you think about I think about some things like the little lies I tell, and then how it really does, it's like a trickle effect, and you like you have to continuously lie, and then you're like, well, then you're putting yourself in a really bad place, so it doesn't do any good. Then it's a white lie. But anyways, but another part is really growth and like that level of, you know, the
Like personal growth.
yeah, well, growth in general, like
Wait,
mentally,
oh, I see, gotcha.
yeah, like
Emotionally,
all of that,
Yeah.
because I am a really big believer that like I just genuinely cannot. I firmly believe that I cannot survive if I'm just rigid and like stuck in one place, like mentally. And like I hate the idea of like seeing other people grow and like you know, develop themselves, and I'm just like they're
Wanna
stuck.
evolve too.
I don't like the idea of not evolving. So that's like really core. Like that is a core thing for me.
Cool.
Is growth. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like you hit the spot. Like you literally covered it. Yeah, I would say another thing to add on to that would be like trust. And maybe not just like trust with others, but even just trust within yourself.
Yeah.
Like having that like sort of like trust that you know what you're doing is right.
Yeah.
And having it's almost confidence, yeah. And sometimes it even comes in the feeling of like a gut feeling. You know? When you know it's right. Intuition. Yeah. So having that strong belief and having that trust within yourself. That you know you can do the right thing, and this will help somebody, or this will not help someone, you know, and you're doing the right thing, and you have that trust in yourself. I think is a big part of it for sure.
That's really good. Yeah.
Before I proceed, how are you guys doing? Good. I want you to know, like, this is going to be like really helpful intel for a lot of my viewers. So thank you. This is wonderful. Like,
I really hope it does.
yeah. Honestly, like, you guys are exploring along the way, but the questions you're coming up with, the wrestling that you're doing in the moment is.
It's our daily conversation.
Yeah, it really is. We talk about we actually
How far back does your friendship go?
3.5 years.
Okay.
We
In what
met
context?
the first day on university.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Same
we're
program?
both
on the same floor.
Yeah, we're both immigrants.
Yeah.
We came
Yeah, we're both
from
immigrants. Came from different places.
different places. We
You
had
came from Africa, you came. Just kidding.
I
actually
came from Africa, but
Where in
she,
Africa?
Kenya.
Don't. I was going to guess Kenya.
Ah!
I grew up in Kenya. In Nairobi.
Whereabouts?
In Nairobi. I remember the names of the schools I attended. Shadrach Kamalo.
I don't know that
Daniel
one.
Arab Moy, who was once upon a time presidency, you probably know. I moved here when I was 8 years old, though, so much younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
It's so cool. Like I literally grew up like in Nairobi,
Yeah,
so
that's amazing.
that is so cool.
So you've been here a few years now.
I have. yeah.
Gotcha.
Pretty much the same amount of time.
yeah,
And you
we've
as well.
been here.
And you came from
Fiji.
Fiji.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that.
No, I'm Japanese, but I
Very cool.
grown. Yeah, I was
Okay.
raised in Fiji. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you guys met at university first year,
Yeah.
and your friendship has continued so far.
Yeah.
Same program?
Business,
but different
different
concentrations.
Yeah.
We're both graduated
Oh,
we both graduated
at the same time.
Oh, you don't say. In under 4 years.
Yeah.
It usually takes 4 years for a degree.
It did it for it.
It is. Well,
Oh.
like September, end of September, we came here, and then it's like
Okay.
we graduated in
much
April,
4
so
years,
it's
yeah.
technically
4 years.
Okay. Okay.
academic-wise
Yeah.
4 years.
Must be nice to be smart. Okay, tell me.
Really not.
You have no idea how bad we are. Like,
Oh my goodness, yeah.
the struggle.
So just an aside, after your degree, do you find there's more optimism or cynicism in relation to business? Just in general. We don't have to dive into it.
Yeah, no,
That's a very good question. I feel like a bit of both.
yeah,
I feel like
You
a bit of
haven't
both.
entered the workforce yet, I'm guessing.
I have.
You have.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, yeah, bit of both. Only
Yeah.
because there's a whole fact of,
Yeah.
I need money to survive. So,
Yeah.
you know,
You
thank
gotta do
all
what
these.
you need to do.
Exactly.
Keep
and
them out
then-
quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
There's more to be said there. I understood. All right, moving away from that topic. Thank you for sharing. My podcast is specifically to try and inspire young men towards integrity or to living with integrity. In general, and from your observation personally, do you feel young men are nailing it in the park in reference to integrity generally, or do you find them struggling their way forward?
Could you be a bit more specific in terms
Sure.
of like what age are we looking at? What specific?
Yeah, let's say young men, and I'm speaking specifically like 16 to like 25-year-olds.
Okay. Yeah.
That's helpful.
That is all. I guess, something that I feel like this time, that like growing phase, being a young man, or
Yeah.
that age of 16,
Literally.
is it's very crucial because that's that time when things change. Like, you move from places, you move out of your house, you things happen with your family, you grow. And there's so much that happens, and that change can lead to a lot of development, whether it comes to in terms of integrity or whether it comes, in terms of like your own personal moral beliefs. And
It's forming, evolving.
it's forming at that time, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like it goes like very specific to each case on its own, each person to its own. But I feel like for each person there's that time where they discover or a moment where they discover that this is the right thing, or this is how I truly feel about some situations. This is how I truly feel about certain people and certain corporations, and you form opinions. And I feel like over the years it develops into where you never really grow completely because we're still growing,
Sure. Absolutely.
but at least your definition of what's right and wrong and your moral beliefs get clearer and clearer by the age.
I see.
I would say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I agree.
That really is kind
No,
of...
that was good. It was-
So, it's still evolving and forming. In your observation, though, do you think they're doing amazing in their experience of integrity, though? Or do you find that they're sort of like fumbling?
Definitely. Something that I was talking about like with my boyfriend recently was that in the generation that we're in right now, it's drastic almost how men are getting that comfort towards embracing change.
So it's, shifting a little bit.
Shifting. It is shifting.
Shifting for the worse or the better?
I think for the better.
Okay. So it wasn't doing so well, but there's glimmer of hope on the horizon, is what they're saying.
And I
like
think
that.
a lot of the change is happening because of people embracing it, and it's coming as a union, almost like people like are accepting and almost normalizing change, and which is helping a lot of other people to explore more change,
Cool.
Yeah. And make it almost easier for
Yeah.
others to follow through.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm going at.
What are your thoughts,
No,
dear?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's like obviously I can't speak from experience, but
As a man, of course
as
not.
a man, no.
But but by way of
Um,
observation.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
observation, and it's like one example I can take, and I think like what Muskan said.
Yeah.
I completely agree. It's because, obviously in that growth phase, you're cycling through many environments, you're cycling through many people, and I noticed that with my boyfriend, where we're talking about this actually last night during dinner, where how much we've changed and how much actually he has changed over the course of the years that we've been dating, and we were analyzing it a little bit, and it's all because of the people around him that has changed.
Huge.
He's really cycled through people, and his values are getting stronger because he's really finding out who he is, and he's really discovering, it's kind of like a 180 type of thing, and it's interesting. It's really interesting. From observation point of view, it's very difficult unless you're close to that person, especially with male, to really be able to see that. But I love that. I love seeing that. It's so cool. Seeing someone evolve, and especially, it has a lot to do with the people around you and the environment around you that influences your thoughts and your level of integrity that you have to hold towards yourself. Because when you're young, you're surrounded by people who are very alike, and I think that, you're in school, you have that whole social culture around you that really tries to shape who you are, and then you get out into the real world, you really experience different types of people, and you find out what you like. And I think it's so hard to separate between the experiences of a male and female, because I feel like everyone's everyone goes through very similar things. But one thing that I noticed, and I was talking to my partner about it, and he said, and I was like, it's crazy because I didn't think that you changed, but the fact that you said you changed puts perspective into things, and I start to think about things, and it's it's interesting that you don't, he doesn't really speak about it. He was like, yeah, I think about it, but I don't really say it out loud. And he really did embrace that moment to really speak it out, and it's just wow, I love that. Tell me more, I want to know.
That's
awesome. But
That's
it's from observation point of view, it's changing. Everyone has, the older they get, the closer they get to possibly who they're happy being.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So, you have some thoughts already on this next question of mine, but if you had some men who came up to you both and said, we're trying to figure out how to do this integrity piece better, we don't know where to start, we don't know how to think about it, what are some helpful suggestions you would propose they consider in starting this exploration of what it could look like? I mean, you were already saying something along the lines of the company you keep is really critical, right? And that seems to have played a huge part, especially for your significant other, in their evolution, their metamorphosis.
Yeah, for him, for example, right? He... Sorry for him, but a little... so he started off with having no friends when I first met him. He had one best friend, and throughout the course of a relationship, he's really grown his friend circle, and really beautiful people as well. He surrounded himself with, and it's crazy because he has more friends than me now. It's wow, I'm so happy for that. I honestly am,
because you see the benefits for him.
He really does,
and for you both,
and for me too. I they're really cool people. And that's all because he decided that he would rather, and I don't know, right? It's all.
Ayari, let me ask you then specifically.
Yes.
Is it just surrounding yourself with friends in general, or specific criteria you're looking for in the people you surround yourself with? What did you observe there?
You know what I observed?
Yeah.
Is his value, the way he values his life changed. So he decided, and he did have a lot of, he had, when he was in high school, he had a lot of personal problems, and that really pushed him down. And I think it was at some point, and I do not know, I can't say when, is when he just realized to just do things. and I think he was telling me this. It's like it's so easy to just sit and think about like, oh, I have to do all of these things, and then that makes you procrastinate more.
Yeah.
But then when you just like get up and you literally just do it, and you go about doing it, and he said that his value of life really changed, and he wanted better. And it's that striving to be better, striving to have better, and knowing that you're worth it.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, when you're young, you like you get like put down. You have so many little stupid, not stupid, but you have these little competitions and challenges, and everything is so difficult because it just is. And so I think it's that like determination and that confidence within yourself, not within other people. Other people are only there to influence you. It is all within yourself that you really go and strive and really, you know, do that. So I think that was a part, is that his values in life really changed. Yeah.
So good.
But yeah.
Good insight. Good insight. Oh, yeah, Muskan.
Oh, well, I would say I guess you pretty much covered exactly like that kind of scope, you know, understanding the surrounding.
Sure.
But also in terms of like almost reflecting, like coming back to like experiences in your life when you've seen things and you may have denied that experience or you may have neglected it.
Yeah.
But reflecting that experience and thinking again, like, if I was there again now, would I have done something different? Yeah. And so just, I feel like reflection is always a big part of in any person's like development. It's very important to reflect back into,
or have the skill for doing it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you're saying reflection, you're saying self-reflection, where you're like, hey, let me reassess, use your memory to take yourself back and sort of analyze and say what went good, what didn't go so hot, and how would I change things? Is that what you're saying?
That's bang on. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's so cool because like, and everyone has different ways of like reflecting. Like, you know, like my partner, like when when we're like just sitting down, he'll like talk about his day and it's like, oh, I should have done this, and it's like some people reflect by talking to other people and processing it, and like you think about other things when you're talking, and
like this conversation.
Exactly.
It is.
Exactly. But
it's really helpful.
But like in terms of like direct though, like surround yourself with communities. Like there's a lot. I mean, it's so difficult to find, to have that courage to like go out and like find it, especially as a male, because you know, like I feel like social communities are very like woman based, and it's like we're like, you know, like girlies, you know, all of that. But like within that community, you'll probably find someone, and that will lead your network through the roof, and you will get influenced, and you will find different values in life. Just explore life.
That's and like, kind of something that you're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking to people. And getting that experience through people's lens, like seeing their life through their lens.
Absolutely.
Understanding like, you know, their perspective on things, and sometimes. And I mean, come on. I feel like this happens to everyone, where, you know, you'll have a conversation with someone and they'll talk about a moment in their life that they did something, and it makes you, like, it almost triggers a moment that happened in your life that you didn't even think about, but you were like, wait, what? This happened to me? Yeah. And then you start thinking about it and you're like, yeah, I mean, I shouldn't have done this. Actually, I should have done this. It's a good point. But, like, it's one of those things where, you know, it's these conversations that help us grow too. Yeah. And something that happens a lot with my family is we have these morning conversations. We sit in the living room. And in the morning.
Before breakfast, after.
Before breakfast.
Oh my goodness.
With the coffee in our hand, like it's right then and there when you're fresh out of like.
Okay, this is it.
These are your like literally like
you're
most
fresh.
raw thoughts you can have, and we'll talk about life. We'll talk about like things going on. We'll talk about religion and spirituality.
Really?
Oh,
and
with an agenda in mind, or just open?
Just an open conversation. And it's just our entire family, we're all just having a comfortable conversation, everybody adding their own inputs. Sure. But it's that conversation that I feel like has helped me understand what my understanding of spirituality is, you know? So that can apply in every situation, even in terms of integrity. Wow, like today, our conversation has led me to understand more things about integrity than I did yesterday. So that conversation is a big part.
My encouragement for you both, even after this, is of course you're going to be recounting your experience here with your men, but also as you do so, like encouraging them to even carry it further with their groups of men. Because again, it's one of those things that seems implied, so we don't talk about it until you actually explicitly start putting it out in the air and processing it and saying, okay, this is what this means for me when I think of it this way. And yeah, that's really intriguing.
Yeah, like I agree. But you know, the hard thing though is facilitating that conversation with men.
I see.
Yeah, because like I think there's that really strong barrier that I hate to say it, but it's I can't help you unless you help yourself, and it's that level of I am so willing to talk about it. I love talking about these things.
Sure.
I absolutely love it, and I would love to know other people's experiences because like that's part of that will benefit me,
Yes.
right? As much as it will benefit you. But it's like, well, if I'm out here talking about my feelings and it's just a blank wall, then it's like, well, come on, right? Like it's So it's that level of like you gotta be open to exploring that level of integrity within yourself, especially as men.
One of the things sometimes I talk to women and they share with me some of their relational struggles, and they're trying to figure out how do I even bring this up with my significant other, and I say, use me as an excuse. Say, I met this crazy guy and he said this and this and this, what do you think? And that's like an introduction into that conversation that is accessible, for example. So use me as an excuse, saying, so we met this guy, he was just pretty outlandish and he was very presumptuous and whatever, but what do you think about the ideas? And you get right to the ideas kind of thing, right? Almost those segues that could make it possible. Here's this.
I already see that I already see how that's gonna play out in my head. Yeah.
Ladies, last question for you. This has been a really, really helpful conversation. Any questions for me?
Oh my goodness, I have so many. But maybe off camera. I have so many about your journey of how you got here.
I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay, yes.
See, the thing is, when I went online 3 years ago in a different theme that I was putting out there, one of the things I knew I was going to give up was my privacy, which I really valued. So back in BC where I grew up, I was like in my small city that I was in, I was well known and I enjoyed that. But when I moved out here for my grad studies, all of a sudden I was like, ooh, I'm an anonymous. No one knows me. And I enjoyed that for a few years. But then when I had that impetus to say I need to start creating content again, but here's the cost. The cost, a huge one, was going to be my personal privacy. I'm going to be recognized. There's people who are going to want to know more. There's people who are going to want to dig. There's people who are going to want to hate. All the entailments of putting yourself out there. So one of the things I committed to is saying, how can I be okay with myself where I'm at? I had to do a lot of personal work first before I ever put myself online. And I think it's critical for those who want to do content creation in general online and creating stuff, because if you're not able to like handle the intense scrutiny and assault of those who have ulterior intentions, it's a tough place to be. So I'm an open book, so don't worry. Ask your questions. Thank you.
Awesome. No, that's so awesome. I love that you took the time to work on yourself before you went out there to really. But why integrity? Why this level? Like why this type of podcast? Like you could do a lot of other content.
Totally, and I wrestled. So before I focused on this one specifically, like there's a lot of things I feel I do really well, a lot of gifts and abilities I have. But I wanted to get to the heart of what am I trying to really like contribute back to the world. And from my experience, like I just hinted at earlier, many years I desired to be where I'm presently at, but I didn't have access to. I didn't have models. I had glimmers of others who sort of like said, oh, here's what it could look like, and it was amazing. And as a result of not having access to it, I made so many fumbles. I made many mistakes. I hurt a lot of people, lost a lot of really important things in my life, and so I never forget the big lessons in life. There's some things that are just so memorable and painful, and you're like, oh, let's not do that again. But I don't want to forget those. I want to remember those as vividly as I can. I want to remember them with as much detail as I can. I want to be able to relive those moments, not because I want to live in the past, but more so because that's what spurs me to continue my present commitments. And also to be able to say, what's it like for those who are where I once used to be? How can I speak to them? How can I create and communicate in a way that they can relate to and say, you know what it's like. You've been there, you know. And so integrity seems to me at the focal point, at a very core point of part of my liberation, my emancipation, my freedom, in essence, to be me, to present me to the world. And these two words I'm about to say, for many, seem synonymous. Integrity and authenticity. And I think they're different. There's a lot of encouragement today for authenticity, which is not a bad thing. Be your authentic self, etc., etc. I don't begrudge that, but I think a more pertinent commitment that we ought to be considering and challenging ourselves is, before being authentic, how can we think of integrity? How can we be more integrous in our own personal lives? Because I mean, the difference at the heart of it for me, authenticity is be who you are. Yeah, that's great, but you could be a jerk and be who you are, right? Without the moral compass. Integrity just adds on that moral compass of, here's what I strive to be, even as I be myself, right? And so,
That goal and yeah,
right.
setting boundaries, and it's like
Absolutely.
yeah, authenticity.
And so in a world where we were already talking about in an earlier conversation how there's so many who are peacocking, if you will, on social media to say, here's my life that I want you to believe, although it's far from what I really experience. Here's me in the midst of a whole bunch of like popular people and friends so that I can look like I'm popular, but I still feel empty inside and I lonely and isolated. Here's me trying to get some acknowledgement from the world, but I just feel like I'm so deprived. You know, there's so many elements like that. And so I think the real core approach to experiencing all these genuine things that we want to experience is by coming to terms with, who are we? What do we stand for? How can we be the same inside and outside? How can our values also match our actions? And so this is an encouragement. It's just to say, and specifically for young men, because that's where I once used to be. Yeah, and I think as young men focus on that, they already start changing the world. Like, they'll change the relationships that they're in, they'll change the way they do business, they change the way that, can you imagine like being at the bar and you happen upon young men who are in a huddle and you're surprised by the conversation because they're talking about how can we be better men instead of how can we take advantage of women around us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just seems like not expected, but that's what we're striving for, you know?
Yeah, it's like, and I know that men are capable, like they
Definitely.
Absolutely.
genuinely
Oh,
are
yeah.
capable of having like the craziest, like amazing like discussion about
Sure.
things like that. And I've
Yeah.
had them myself. Like, I've had conversations with men who just love exploring themselves, and it, oh my goodness, like
Yeah.
what? I've never thought of that before.
Totally,
And it's
totally.
like, wow,
Yeah.
the level of thought that goes into that, and
Absolutely.
the way that you're able to, like,
Yeah.
you know, openly talk about that. And it's like that,
Not
that
just with women, but
No,
also
no.
with a group
with
of guys.
a group of guys,
As
and
like
that's
just them
Absolutely.
together.
and like
Absolutely.
yeah, like I'm like, if I'm like in a friend group with my boyfriend, and like they're talking about life and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
I love that,
So
but
cool.
also I'm
inspiring.
taking notes. Like, it's awesome,
Totally.
like, because they have a different perspective in life, and I just
Yeah.
love that.
It's really cool, like getting to know like the perspective that people can bring, like different men can bring,
Yeah.
but also being able to share that as a group together.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the world where there's the idea of the toxic masculinity style, you know, breaking that down and kind of being, or even encouraging the idea that sharing feelings and talking about how you're actually feeling doesn't make you any less masculine.
Yeah, it
If only, if only.
yeah.
Just saying, but women love the idea that when men talk about feelings and actually talk about like these deep thoughts that they've had.
Expressing vulnerability and humanity.
Oh wow!
Vulnerability.
Like,
Yes.
can we please normalize
We're
this?
humans, like,
We would love this.
Yeah, I hear you.
No, but I love the whole, like, integrity, and then working on your integrity, and then like it just naturally forms into authenticity, and I love that. Like, I love that you mentioned that. It's like it's so true, and it's something I struggle with as well personally. Like I always have been struggling with, you know, finding myself and finding my truth self and all of that. But it's like, yeah, that's so good that you said that. I love that.
I'm glad. Yeah, there's a component. I'll go for walks with friends in neighborhoods that have beautiful homes, and I often think, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was a day when we all opened up our homes so we can go check out inside homes and see how people design their interiors and the way. So that sounds amazing. But I just thought of that because even as we share ideas, it's an invitation into our minds and saying, here's what's going on here. Here's some new ideas and epiphanies and you know, considerations you never considered before, and that could enrich. And yeah, that's what this has been for me too. So sweet.
That's amazing. I love that you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, like I have so much more to say, but I'm not gonna say. I'm afraid of myself from saying because I'm gonna talk so much. But yeah, no, I love that. I love
this
that.
has been sweet. This has been sweet. Here, I would love for you guys to watch this recording as well too. So I'm gonna post this maybe in a week's time on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. You can find my name, Binyam, which you remember, of course.
We'll get that.
Yes, of course. And yeah, this has been really. You didn't see this coming in your day, did you?
No, not at all.
Like, and it's like the craziest thing because we were like sitting down, we're like, oh, like, you know, she was talking about this podcast that she watched with Penn Badgley and like Shay Mitchell. They were talking about manifestation.
Yeah,
and then we're like she literally, we sat down and we're like, she was like, oh, so like, she was like, I've been watching so many podcasts, and I'm like, oh, me too.
Yeah.
And
this
like,
is a part of, because I'm like both going through this like growth part of our lives, you know,
everything's
coming
changing.
out of university, now having to look into, you know, like a different part of our life where, you know, we're kind of an adult but not really, like so confused, right?
Yeah.
And it's great to be able to reflect and have that self-growth and meeting you
and meeting you, and even like just podcasts.
a podcast.
You know how helpful they are. Like,
Yeah.
I listen to so many podcasts, and they literally help me so much. So this is great.
This one's been amazing too. I like good quality. Like I don't like feeling bad about the time I spend with people. This has been another one of those, and no, you guys have definitely been of assistance. So on behalf of many who are going to be watching, thank you.
We hope we helped.
Yeah, I hope I was.
Most assuredly. Ayari and Muskan.
There you go.
Oh, it's amazing. You guys are awesome.
That's great.
Oh,
That was like out of nowhere.
What a turn in our day.
I saw you walking across down there. I was like,
yeah.
oh, I love the outfit, and then you came to us. I was like,
Here I am. Well, the thing is, it's hard to say yes to what you don't know you're saying yes to. Do you know what I'm saying? And so here's a stranger approaching you, and you have no idea what this person's intentions are, and you're just going out on a limb here, kind of thing, you know? And so that's why, again, I really value that consent piece when I approach people and say, like, I just made a video just before I came here saying, get some quite a few no's along the way. And often with those no's will come the apologetic, I'm sorry, and I say, you don't need to apologize for saying no, because that's, like, you know how best to serve yourself, and I don't consider this rejection for me. It's more you're looking for after yourself, and so I want to affirm your no, you know, and so whether it's a yes or a no, it's more like, I want this to be a beautiful exchange, you know, and so, Thank you.
honestly, I actually didn't know what the podcast was about. I'm gonna be honest.
That's
before
okay.
starting, but
I know.
That's just who I am.
Big
though.
theme.
But I loved how we were able to just go deeper and deeper into something, you know?
Absolutely.
A lot of the times, podcasts can kind of like, I don't know, I've had this
Just very
experience, but like very much focus around a certain topic and then not go deep into it. Where you don't feel like you were satisfied, you know?
Yeah, you didn't dig deep enough, is what you're saying, right?
So this was one of those moments where you're just like, okay, I'm satisfied now.
I also learned
like what's
so
spoken.
much. Yeah,
That's
like,
awesome.
throughout, like all of that, like I learned like, oh my goodness, I'm so bad at collecting my thoughts
That's okay.
and
You
like
know,
communicating.
that, let me see if I can put some words.
Yes.
You say no if you don't resonate with them. But from my observation, it seemed like your exploration mentally and intellectually was expanded to more questions and more considerations of how do I find myself in the midst of this, even as I wrestle with my experience of it. Because it usually starts off with ideas, doesn't it? We think of ideas and we think, how am I going to like actually experience this now in my own setting, you know, from the nuances of what integrity looks like with ethics to how I'm going to approach it, to how I'm going to experience it and cultivate more conversations with others and encourage others and see it for myself even like as I'm progressing through it, right? Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to keep on going because even after I leave you guys will be like,
I know.
We are one of those people like
We have like this podcast. So we
started,
also have a podcast.
nice.
no, please.
No,
Okay.
it's
I'll-
nowhere near the same.
Nowhere near.
So this was the first year in our
my
friendship.
goodness.
So
Sure.
we kind of just met.
Yeah.
We're best friends.
Yeah.
So
We weirdly instantly clicked, and
we
Yeah.
instantly clicked, and
Absolutely.
we literally were inseparable.
Cool.
so it's like a little too
Sense.
toxic.
Toxic.
Yeah,
it was
honestly.
too
It
much.
was sweet, but
it was
yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
And we started this podcast, and I was in Kenya at that time, and she was still here. And so we were doing like an online COVID kind of like trying to make this work.
Sure.
And we made this podcast, and with absolutely no research into what we really wanted to go into, just whatever we wanted to talk
Just
about.
conversations that we
And
had.
guess what? It was called Deep Talk Detox.
Yeah.
Because we would talk about deep things.
Yeah.
And then detox our stress and like be able to go through that.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is like I don't know if you did, but we were talking about ages ago
Yeah.
about I listened to it. I listened back into it. We
Yeah.
stopped making them.
Yeah.
But I
Oh, yeah.
listened to like the rest of the episodes. Like, wow, how much I've grown.
I know. It's almost like a journal, isn't it?
It is.
And I would
what we use
encourage you,
Spotify.
don't get rid of it.
Oh,
Hang
never.
on
it's
to
on
it.
Spotify.
It's on Spotify.
Amazing.
It's not going anywhere.
See,
Yeah,
like,
going anywhere.
I was just telling my little baby sister about my first ever video that I made for my vehicle in the downtown Calgary and how I wish I still had access to that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there's just leaps and bounds, but it's nice to see that progress.
Yeah.
And as you continue to evolve and grow, like it becomes, you even think of those that you touch and impact as you guys keep going forward, being able to reflect back and say, here's where I started once upon a time. Right now it might be more like self-conscious, oh, no one's ever going to see this, versus later it's like, I'm actually like owning who I once was and how I've grown and shifted over time too.
I
which
feel
is
like
beautiful.
I'll probably let's say this goes
Yeah.
up and I'll like watch it. I don't know. Who knows? Like in 10 years,
Yeah.
I'd be a completely different person.
I'm going to be. I
Yeah.
know I'm going to be.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I give myself space for that.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I give
allow
myself
yourself to
space for
change.
Yeah, exactly. Even when I consider my future romantic partner, I'm thinking, how can I have expectations that are realistic where I'm going to make space for their shift and change over time?
Oh, yeah.
And also their messiness as a human being too.
Oh,
How can I
yeah.
make space for that so it's not like, oh, this is not going to work kind of thing, you know? Yeah.
It's crazy because like the same thing you're talking about, like when we had that podcast out, and one of the episodes we were talking about relationships. Gosh, so we're still growing, and
Yes.
we still have this mindset that we did like at that time, and
Yeah.
it was a very like. It was not at all developed, so it was very much like shallow based.
Yeah.
Like this is exactly what
Where
we
you're at
want.
the
And
moment,
now,
yeah.
when you look back at it, you're like, what made me ever think that that's what I wanted? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like interesting because like you can really see like throughout the podcast, and it's heavily edited because it's like we do a lot of like that, and so that's like
Yes.
heavily edited.
So
But it's interesting because you can really see the way we influence both our thoughts in terms of our answers, and like I don't know, I feel like for our friendship especially, like we've really spaced out. We've given each other space quite a lot, and
quite
like
a
I
lot.
think that's been so good, like in terms of our growth.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like you're meeting new people, you know, like finding yourself
Yeah,
just like
100%.
one in person who's pretty much mirroring you, and you're like,
yeah,
like it's
we allow ourselves to be like different. And
yeah.
that was something that I like really valued.
I really did.
Because we were not like becoming one person.
Yeah, that's like the scariest.
That's the scariest thing we could do.
Which we were.
Sometimes we were, but
really were.
now we're not. So that's
I'm going to ask you another question, so feel free to access your no on this one if it is a no too. It's a personal one, but and you might do it after I leave, or you can do it now. Remember, the cameras are still rolling, so I want you to be aware of that too.
Oh,
yeah, that's
I-
cool.
we're
That's
very
cool.
open
We're
people.
literally, we talk about way too much that we should.
We started a
So-
podcast without thinking about privacy or anything.
Not at all.
The
We were like,
question-
this is our ex's name. This is our current boyfriend.
So the question is, if you guys could look back over your past few years of friendship to this present moment from when you first started, what are the biggest growth points you've seen in each other that you really admire?
Gross or growth?
Growth.
Okay.
Gross?
Growth.
Growth, okay.
Growth, yeah. Growth points
Yeah,
where you're
yeah,
like, here's what I've really watched. Yeah,
Of each
consider
other.
like of each other. Here's a gift I want to give to you in my observation of your evolution over the past 3-4 years that I've really admired in seeing you.
Oh wow, I have a lot.
I have a lot.
I'm like filtering through it. In my...
Yeah. Aim for the first, like the top one, and then you guys stick to the top of it.
Okay, I'm gonna start one.
You go, yeah.
Okay. So, when you were younger, I mean,
3 years
not that
ago.
long ago. 4 years. Come on, it's been like longer.
4.
Yeah. So, like, whatever.
Whatever. When we first met.
When we first met,
Yeah.
we had this. Okay, I noticed this thing about Ayari, which was that she was very, like, she wasn't open,
Yeah.
and she had this thing, and I can tell you why as well. She wasn't ready to open herself up to people. And that trust and that thing wasn't there yet. Because I remember even when we started off being friends, she wouldn't call me her best friend. Because she was scared of the word best friend. And I remember for the longest time, it took me a while to convince her. I was like, girl, I'm your best friend. I am your best friend. So I would like keep like pushing it. And I realized that that was kind of a thing that took a while to open up for her. And I remember I left for a while. We've always been close, so always sharing things. And over the years, I've seen her grow with that ability to open herself to people and open her heart to trust people. Oh my god! So to like be able to even just like her current boyfriend right now. They've been together for a little bit now. But like even that relationship, as you were getting into it, I remember the trust issues you had from like the past and everything, and you were still like unsure if you wanted to open yourself up. And it took you a while to get there, but when you did, there's this beautiful girl underneath all that, you know, who has so much love to give. And like seeing that was, I think, one of the best growth things I could ever see. That progression of like someone who's open to love and open to care, without the worry that they're not gonna be loved back or cared for.
That's really great.
That is very sweet. You know what's funny though is that was always within me. That was always me from when I was little. But there was a point in my teenage life that I put up that self-protection. And that, you know, the social media thing, you know, that affects you when you're young, you're very vulnerable. And that shaped an eggshell, pretty much. I think, like throughout the years, it's like cracked and like resurfaced, like who I am. But yeah, like in terms of Muskan, I have this big one, and it was something that I never really understood, but I do now. Is that I didn't understand in the beginning why. I'll tell you what it is, but why. But you've gotten so much better at it, and it's your level of self-worth, and like it was like I don't want to say too much, but like seeing you slowly love yourself, like genuinely love yourself, and like have that like lack of self-criticism and like lack of validation from other people, especially I've seen that especially like throughout our friendship, like you would ask me about so many things if you were allowed to do things and that, and like seeing you like being able to like just carry it on your own now is like so awesome. And like it's so important too, and like I never understood it. I was like, oh, why is she like that? Like I mean, I felt like sorry for you in a way, but like it's so awesome that you have so much self-confidence now, and like I genuinely look at that and I look up to that, and it's like it's so powerful. And I think a lot of that came from, maybe I can't say, but from like your business experience and having beat down and having going through all those challenges, that you're able to like really navigate through yourself. But I love that you love yourself, and I hope you keep doing that. But that's been such a beautiful transformation to see that.
That's the first time I've ever heard you say that.
And it makes me so emotional only because I never understood why you didn't like yourself, and so. And so like.
Really sweet. Thank you for sharing that, ladies.
Yeah, like. Yeah. No, but it's awesome. So awesome.
Yeah.
It's a painful thing when you see those that you love not having that high self-worth, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and it's not an isolated thing. There's so many who are in that same space who just don't know how to figure that out. But
Yeah.
and it's,
But I
you-
think also
yeah.
another big part of it was that friendship, like that support.
Yeah.
Because like you can't. I mean, there's a lot. It comes from within yourself for sure. Like being able to love yourself, being able to look in the mirror and be happy with who you are. But a lot of it comes from people around you that are like, "Go you, go girl."
Yeah.
Like I started my business, and at that time, it was one of those hardest things because I first of all was struggling with how I felt about myself, and then I had this big thing that I created that I was showing the world, and I had these friends. I had this best friend who would every day call me and be like, "No, you're doing great. This is great. This is good. I'm gonna help you with this, and we're gonna do this." And it felt like every day was gonna get easier, you know. I think that's something.
I think we needed this.
We needed this. We needed this.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen each other in a while, so
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Drifting.
yeah, it's been drifting. I kind of felt that the other day too. I was talking to Stephen and I was telling him that like I think the hardest thing is seeing someone who you love so much not be as close to you as you were, because in the first year we were inseparable, like I just mentioned. We were literally always together, very close. And even over the years we tried to keep that friendship up, but then life takes us to places. We get busy, and
He was coming in for a hug.
I don't need it right now.
I like that.
I think
Oh, thank you so much.
thank you for that. This
My
is
pleasure.
we needed
I
that.
appreciate you guys sharing that moment too. That was really sweet.
Blessing in disguise,
And it's part of your integrity too. I think you're mentioning self-growth is a really big one in here. She's saying you've seen so much growth and something that's beautiful when you share years together. You've seen that trajectory,
it's
you see,
beautiful.
I know. And the thing is when we notice it, but often we don't get around to actually talking about it, saying, just so you know, here's what I really appreciate or admire. And then a lot of people find out when it's too late. I wish I'd had a chance to say X, Y, or Z. So I'm really glad to be a part of this. It's an intimate moment, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. We do it in public quite a lot.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
We cry in public.
That's
We love
awesome. That's awesome.
No, not for attention, but it just
happens.
Of course, it's just being.
Most of our cry sessions, because we used to do these deep talks before we started the podcast. We'd do just conversations. We'd do like a deep conversation, unpacking all the feelings that we've had recently, and we'd sit in literally the cafeteria,
Yeah.
the most busiest place where you don't want to see anyone cry.
Uh-huh.
Where these two girls cry, you're talking about like bawling our eyes out, like, oh, I feel like this right now.
But because we're so in the moment and like so in the
Yeah.
conversation.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
My name again is.
Binion.
Now, if you remember my last name, Asres, A-S-R-E-S-S, you'll find me on social media.
AS.
You can type it down if you like.
Yeah.
A-S.
I think might have to just pull up Instagram so that we
Yeah.
can
Sure.
I-
Yeah.
yeah.
So Instagram and TikTok, I post like just little snippets, and then on YouTube is where I post all the full length ones.
Oh,
You found me. Lovely.
Oh, I love that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh wow, you've been making them. Wow.
Oh, this is great.
You'll see a lot of my history in there.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
So cool.
Love
You've
that.
always had that hat, or have you? Or is that recent?
Renditions of it. This one, I think the thing I'm most recognized for is my bow ties. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That part,
I see
yeah.
that. I see that.
Yeah,
ties.
it's got a prominent feature to be certain. Yeah.
This is so cool.
Ayari, lovely to meet you. Muskan, what does your name mean?
It means to smile.
Nice, I love it. And what does yours mean, dear?
According to my mom, it's Queen of Flowers.
Ah, that's amazing. What is your favorite flower?
It used to be tulips.
Okay.
I think it's changed now to like, I forgot the name for it, but it's like a white, very beautiful smooth.
Have you communicated that?
Lilies or-
No. I have a cat, and Lily's
no.
deathly for my cat.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Oh, yeah. It's
Okay.
bad time.
Okay.
I forgot. It's like bulby. And
Oh.
it's not ink.
Oh.
Something carnation. Carnation? No, it's not. Is it?
I don't know.
Is
I
it
don't know
a
my
rose?
flowers.
I have no idea. I genuinely don't know.
You know what it looks like when you see it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, that one. That's
That
the
one.
Yeah.
Have you communicated that to your man?
I have not. He brings me roses.
Okay.
Oh,
So
God.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I genuinely don't like flowers because they end up
Okay.
dying and
Oh,
stuff.
I
So
see.
he stopped bringing me flowers. He brings me plants instead, and
Oh, that's a good.
Keep them
that's
alive.
a
I
good
just
one.
have them.
Nice.
Oh, what?
That's a good one.
That's just
That's
how it is.
awesome. I was admiring your lemons.
Oh yeah. I have another pair which is like strawberries.
Okay.
So I'm kind of on a hunt to collect as many fruits and stuff as
goodness.
possible. Yeah.
Do you prefer fruits over vegetables? Or vegetables over
Usually
fruits?
some vegetables. Avocado.
I do. I love avocado.
Avocado's a fruit, though.
Is it?
Avocado's a fruit.
Yes.
Okay, because it has a seed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a fruit.
Okay.
What's a vegetable? That I-
Broccoli.
Broccoli. Oh yeah, I do like broccoli.
Wait,
broccoli.
if you had to choose one or the other, which one would you choose? Fruits or veggies? If you had to choose one, to the exclusion of the other.
Okay, fruits then.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
yeah.
Me
They're
too.
so refreshing. Yeah. I love that.
Like you can't even think about it.
I know. There are some who would say veggies, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, I used to like take the peas out of my.
Oh, you're one of those. When my mom would slap me, she'd be like,
Yeah, they would like see it and they'd be like, "You're eating your peas."
That's awesome.
in the middle of the night, you're like sleeping. You gotta get your veggies.
Did your mom ever tell you like these like really like bizarre things?
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
oh, if
Oh.
you don't drink milk, you're not gonna grow tall.
The carrots.
Carrots in the eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Good eyesight. Carrots.
The eyesight.
Right. That's
Carrots.
a classic one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Oh, I
like,
heard a new one recently. My mom was like saying, "Oh, walk on grass. That helps with your eyesight." Walking on
wait
grass.
a minute, what? I've heard though that like if you walk barefoot on the ground,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
helps
really?
you. Yeah, it helps you.
Connect to the ground.
Or something. They did a test where it's like the shock vibration throughout your shoes versus on the ground. And something
Really?
Like that. Yeah.
Fascinating.
I forgot what it was, but it
Intrigued.
has something like scientifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless that
That could be it
experiment
then.
was sweet, but
My mom sees these like Facebook videos and then she's like, "Okay, this is it."
I saw it was like it's cool.
So you need to
Shucks.
know.
Fact
Yeah.
checking. Ladies, I'm gonna take my leave.
Yes.
Lovely to spend this time again. I hope we get to run into each other again. I'll be like, I recognize you from somewhere. I'm trying to remember where. You're like, this is where.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll remember that.
We'll
Thank
be
you.
calling you over like,
We got some news for you. All right, ladies. Goodbye for now.
"Great rest of your day."
Thank you. Same to you too.